So, today we're going to talk about how people weaponize relationships. So, this is actually more common than you may think. Since it is so common, it happens in any type of relationship that you can think of. It can happen in friendships, it can happen in just being like acquaintances. It can happen in romantic relationships. It can happen in relationships with your family. It can happen in work environments. It can happen in um, any type of setting that you can think of, at the gym, at your church, at any type of setting that you can think of. This can happen. People use other people and their relation to other people as a weapon sometimes. And that's a sad fact, but it is, in fact, a fact. Um, the way that this looks in real life, okay, let's say if it is a romantic situation. So you will have, let's just say that a couple breaks up, okay, and one party of the couple will couple up with someone else to try to prove their worth, or to try to prove their, to prove that they are wanted, that they're not the problem. And that's basically the reason why people use relationships and use other people as a weapon, is because they want to prove that they're not the problem, that they can be in a relationship with someone else with no issues, with no problem. Um, Another example, let's say if this is a sibling situation, or just anybody in your family. So let's say that you have a falling out with one person in your family, and that person will grow closer to another member of the family. But this is always in proximity to where you can see, or to where you would know. And if it's not in proximity to where you can see or would know, then they will make sure that you see or would know it, because this is a weapon. It's not just a typical relationship where you're just, you all just enjoy each other's company. You may enjoy each other's company, but there's an ulterior motive with one person in this relationship. So like I said, if this is a family member, then they will draw closer to another family member, and it may be a family member that you all are both, close with. They will draw closer to that family member to either pull them away from you, or to show, for one, they want to show to the outside that they're not the problem. Like I said, that they can be close to somebody, and so it must be you that's the problem. So that's the one thing. And then for two, to show you that it must be something wrong with you, that it's not them that's the problem, it must be something wrong with you, because I'm having a fine relationship with this person here, so I'm not the problem, it must be you. So those are the unsaid, things that go on. Let's just say if it's in a work environment, the same thing goes. If you have a falling out, then then they will draw closer to someone that maybe or that's in your vicinity, to where you will see it, and to where you will, it's always to make you feel as if something must be wrong with you, the reason why you can't have a successful relationship with this person, and to others, to make others look at you as though it must be you, because hey, because they're having a, perfect relationship with this person. And like I said, that this can happen in any type of setting that you can think of. This can happen. People will, if somebody have a falling out with you, they will try to befriend someone that they don't even know, but that they know that you are friends with. These are just the twisted mind games that people play. Um, and it's really for a sense of control. It's for a sense of, they want to control the narrative. They want to control you in a sense. They want to, and it's actually it's kind of, it's not that it's kind of, but it is socially irresponsible, it's socially disrespectful, it's socially um, abusive, I want to say. It's it's crossing like a social boundary is what it is. It's crossing a social boundary, but it's an unsaid and an unspoken and an unseen boundary. So, you really can't, if you call it out, then it makes it seem like you're just you're insecure, or you're, overreacting, or you thinking too much into it or whatever. So it almost puts you in a place to where you can call it out, because if you do, then it's definitely something wrong with you. And if you don't, then you just have to sit back and watch them have but you already know that it's an unsuccessful relationship, and it's never going to last long, because it's not built on truth. It's not built on authenticity. It's not a genuine relationship. This is a facade. This is to make, you know, um, just to control the narrative, and to try to control that person, and to cross their social boundaries, and which, that's what makes it abusive, is because you are crossing someone's social boundaries, you know, especially when it's in the same vicinity as, like if everyone's in the same vicinity, that's a little twisted, that's not saying that you can control who people befriend, or you can control who likes who better, or whatever. I mean, of course, you can't control that. But when you are doing it with the intent, that's the key. When you are doing it with the intent, and people know, maybe not the third person that's involved, but the main two know what's going on. So when you are doing it with the intent, then that's a little cruel. That's a little abusive. That's crossing boundaries. That's being that it is so much thought put into it, then that's malicious. Because if you will put that much thought into intentionally mentally harming someone to the point to where they can't quite call it, or if they call it, then they may not be believed, because you can't quite prove it, but but we know what's going on, but you can't quite prove it, then that's cruel. That's abusive, and but this goes on all every day. This happens all the time, and it's sad. I mean, people do it with kids as well. You may have two parents that are not, that are at odds with each other, and people will try to use their relationship with a child, and that's still abusive. That's still crossing a boundary, and it's cruel. It's a cruel thing, and it's sad to say, and it's sad to even think or believe that people can stoop that low, but people do it. If you have a ill family member, someone may try to use that as they will try to use that as a sympathy card, almost like try to use their relationship with that ill family member to try to prove that they are more sympathetic and more empathetic, and that they care so much, when that's not saying that they don't care. But when you are doing it with the intent to try to prove that someone else does not, that's the problem. And that's when it becomes abusive. So when goodwill is used with bad intent, it's abuse. It's no longer goodwill. It's no longer you being a good person. It's no longer you being so helpful. It's no longer you looking out for someone. It's no longer you such a good friend. It's no longer, any of that. When goodwill is used with bad intention, that is called abuse. That's emotional abuse, that is malicious, that is cruel, that is crossing a social boundary, that is crossing an emotional boundary. And I feel like more people should know this, because I don't think that people even see it as being abusive. You may think that it's a little twisted or whatever, but it's actually abusive. It's not just twisted. It's not just mean. It's not just, that person can play this nice, nasty game the best. It's abuse, is what it is. And it should be called exactly what it is. And it should be seen for exactly what it is, and not seen as anything else. So just in case if you're going through this, just know that that is abuse. You're not just, being, blackballed. You're not just being, looked at as the black sheep. This is social abuse, is what it is. And I feel like more people should be called out for it. People should be called out for it, because I don't think that people even recognize it. I don't know if they don't recognize it or if they just don't want to recognize it. It may be a little of both. But you have this as especially going on now in the holiday season, because you have so many people that want, when you're at odds with your families, when you're at odds, in different areas, then the holiday season is when the niceness come out of people. But we have to be mindful of, why is this person being nice to me? Why do they suddenly want a relationship with me? Why are they inviting me out? What's the reason behind it? So that's something for us to look out for on both sides. Like if someone is using you, you know, as a weapon, then you may need to kind of, well, if you even have a suspicion behind it, then you may need to ask questions on both sides to get a clearer picture. Because usually what is happening is one person is either, you know, not telling the whole truth, or they're blatantly lying, or or they just won't bring it up at all. And if someone don't even want to talk about what happened with somebody else, then that's a red flag right there. Red flag, red flag. You know, if you don't even want to talk about them, or if you talking about them too much, then it's some touchiness there. It's some touchiness there. Now, that's not saying that they're right or wrong, but that's saying that more questions need to be asked to determine who was right or wrong. And even if they're not putting that person in the equation, meaning that they may not be saying, okay, well, me and Sarah fell out, so that's why me and you friends. Okay, of course they're not going to say that. But if you notice that them and Sarah had been pretty close, and now they're all of a sudden, not friends at all with Sarah, or they shading Sarah every time you turn around, and now y'all are best friends. Okay, something may have happened there, and if something did in fact happen there, then why did they choose me to be friends with? Because they know that me and Sarah are kind of, tight too. So why did they choose me to be friends with? So this is just something that on all sides of the equation, that everyone has to be aware. Everyone has to call a thing and leave it at that. And the last thing that I will say is that if someone will weaponize a relationship, or if someone will use another party to have a sense of control over someone else, that person can't be trusted. That person cannot be trusted, because that's going a you done went a notch above, crazy, I feel like. Because that's that's abusive, but that's the type of abuse that you can't see. So that's like beating somebody on the bottom of their feet. You can't see it. You can't prove that a whip is on the bottom of your feet, you know. So it's not easily seen. So you can hide behind the facade of being nice. You can hide behind the facade of being a good person, or being a good friend, or being a good whatever, a good cousin, a good, sibling, a good, child, or whatever it is. You can hide behind that facade all the while being abusive to someone else. So that's a notch above crazy, or a notch above, I won't even say crazy, but a notch above almost psychopathic, almost, because it's the intent. And this is not just a one-time thing. It's not like you just hid somebody's favorite sweater from them. This is, you are keeping up a relationship. So this means that day in and day out, or day after day, you are continuing to keep up a relationship under a lie. That means that you don't mind lying to get what you want, at whatever the cost. You don't mind stepping on someone else, intentionally stepping on someone else, not just that it's a competition, and then you don't mind, you know, stepping on someone else to win, but you have made this a competition because you want control. And that's the psychopathic part, is because who told you that you were deemed power of attorney over this person? Why should you have control over this person? Why should you have control of the narrative? Why, why should it be you? Why do you think yourself so deserving to have control over the situation at large? Now, that's something to think about. That's something, as I said before, we need to be able to recognize things so that we can call a thing and stop falling for this nice, nasty act that so many people have nowadays. It's just common. It's expected almost. It's an act. It's like a game, where you are playing with people, but it's a game to see who can nice nasty the best, who can weaponize somebody the best. Okay, well, I can get over on you and you don't even know it. I'm gonna smile in your face and all the time I won't take your place. Who can do it the best? You can do it too. You know, it's an act and it's sickening actually. It's actually sickening sometimes to think about how demented people um can get. But as I said, when you have people using goodwill with ill intentions, that is abuse. So let's call a thing, let's recognize it and call it, and let's deal with it accordingly.